The third time the gate flashed, access denied. I didn't panic, not even close. I just breathed out slowly, the way you do when you're watching the final, crucial piece of a very long, very complicated puzzle click into place. From the other side of the sleek black SUV, Eleanor's voice crackled through the cheap intercom, sharp and dripping with fake sweetness. "Mr. Vance, this is private property now. I'm afraid you'll have to turn your rusted vehicle around." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just reached under the seat and pulled out the small, worn cedar box I'd kept hidden for 7 months. Because today wasn't about winning an argument. It was about unveiling the trap I'd built right under their perfectly manicured noses. They thought they had locked me out, thinking I was finished, defeated. What they never bothered to find out was that this gate, this shiny symbol of their power, wasn't just theirs. It was mine, too. If you've ever faced a power-drunk HOA or a smug neighbor with a clipboard who thinks they're a petty god, you know the feeling. Drop your state in the comments. I want to see how far this sickness reaches. It all started on a crisp, almost too perfect September morning. I was out on the eastern boundary of my property, the side that faces the development they call Stone Creek Estates. 5 years ago, they carved that place out of an old pecan orchard, turning it into a sea of identical, beige boxes with lawns so perfect they looked fake. My place, Sycamore Ranch, is the opposite, 40 acres of beautiful, chaotic wildness, the only place my wife, Clara, and I ever wanted to be. We bought the ranch after I left my job in structural engineering. We wanted space, sunsets, and the quiet rhythm of the seasons. 2 years ago, cancer took Clara, fast, leaving me with our dreams and this land that now felt both too quiet and the only thing keeping me upright. Stone Creek's HOA, run by Eleanor Caldwell, had always treated the ranch like a stain on their pristine linen. I got endless passive-aggressive emails about my non-conforming agricultural activities. My beloved goats were deemed unsanitary. My old '78 Ford pickup was a blight on curb appeal, and my tall sunflowers were inconsistent with community aesthetic guidelines. Little things, annoying things, a constant trickle of harassment that always pointed back to Eleanor's cold, self-important stare. Then came the hammer. An email with the subject line, "Mandatory Access Control Implementation for Community Security." My stomach did a slow roll. They claimed the private lane leading to my ranch, Blackwood Lane, was now under their jurisdiction. They were installing an electronic gate system for enhanced security and property value preservation. Of course. I immediately called my neighbor, a tough, quiet guy named Leo. Leo runs a custom metal shop, but he's plugged into the local government circuit. He drove over, nursing a cup of coffee on my porch, and hit me with the real story. "It's not just the road, man," he said, taking a sip. "The big corporate sharks, Atlas Development, they're circling. They want the land on the far side for a massive mixed-use retail park, and guess what? Your ranch is right in the way of their planned main access route." That was the moment it shifted from petty neighbor drama to corporate-backed bullying. The HOA wasn't trying to inconvenience me. They were systematically softening me up, trying to force a fire sale. I forced myself to attend the next HOA meeting. The room went silent when I walked in. Eleanor, wearing a blazer that probably cost more than my first truck, began her presentation on the glorious new security initiative. When she finished, I raised my hand. "I'm curious," I asked, keeping my voice flat and professional. "What is the legal basis for installing a permanent structure like that gate on what my deed clearly shows is private property?" Her smile didn't move, but her eyes went cold. "Mr. Vance, the community access road falls under the HOA's jurisdiction per the original plat maps. Our legal team has reviewed everything thoroughly. Now, moving on to the fountain maintenance report." Dismissed. But as I left, I noticed a man in an expensive suit, Greg from Atlas Development, sharing a quick, triumphant nod with Eleanor. And then, Old Man Peterson, one of the original board members, brushed past me and muttered, "Watch your back, Ethan. They're selling you out." That night, I didn't sleep. I pulled out every document Clara and I had collected, the deeds, the surveys, the original county planning records. They were spread across the kitchen table, the oak surface where we used to plant our garden. I went through the faded blue lines and archaic terminology line by line, fueled by cold coffee and pure, protective rage. After about 4 hours, squinting under the light fixture Clara picked out, I found it. A tiny, overlooked detail buried in a 1940s-era road easement agreement. Blackwood Lane wasn't just my property. It was part of a historic right-of-way, and when the land was subdivided for Stone Creek Estates decades ago, a specific covenant was established. The original ranch owner, me, retained final control of the access point. The language was old, but the meaning was unmistakable. The development could use the road, but they could never, ever alter its structure or restrict access without the ranch owner's explicit written consent. I actually laughed. A harsh, rusty sound that echoed in the empty house. This wasn't just a win, it was the entire game changer. I called Sarah Jennings, a sharp attorney I knew, the kind who understands that law is sometimes a weapon. I laid the documents out in her cluttered but efficient office. She adjusted her glasses, leaning forward. "Ethan," she said, her voice dropping to a serious tone, "this is fascinating. The easement rights are unusually specific. You don't just own the road leading to your ranch. Based on these boundary descriptions and covenants, you control the entire primary access point to Stone Creek Estates itself." I stared at her. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" She gave a slight, satisfied smile. "They can't lock you out, but you, legally, could lock them in. Of course," she added quickly, "we're not suggesting that. But it gives us leverage. They've been operating under the assumption that the HOA has authority over the access road. Legally, the opposite is true. This revelation didn't just protect my home. It handed me the keys to their whole kingdom. If Eleanor and Atlas wanted a fight, I now had the means to respond in kind, and I realized this wasn't just about my ranch anymore. It was about standing up to corporate greed and the little tyrant they had installed. Our strategy was surgical. Phase 1, stealth and preparation. Sarah meticulously filed the necessary paperwork with the county to formally clarify my easement rights, making it public record, but doing so quietly, under the radar. We wanted them to proceed with the gate. It was essential for the trap to work. Meanwhile, I played the cooperative neighbor. I started attending every HOA meeting, adopting a facade of interest in the security upgrades. I even volunteered to join the new Community Enhancement Committee, much to Eleanor's poorly concealed delight. She saw my participation as resignation, or perhaps defeat. "It's good to see you embracing community spirit, Ethan," she purred one night, the mention of Clara still feeling like a violation from her lips. I just nodded, maintaining my calm. Behind the scenes, the counter-operation was in full swing. Leo, using his metal shop as cover, helped me install half a dozen discrete, high-definition security cameras along my property line, aimed right at where they were planning the gate. I hired a land surveyor to physically place inconspicuous markers confirming the boundary lines. The real gold came when I used a directional mic, borrowed from Leo, to record a conversation between Eleanor and Greg in the community garden. "Once the gate is operational," Eleanor's voice was clear on the tape, "we can implement Phase 2. The security protocols will make it increasingly difficult for him to maintain that eyesore of a ranch. Everyone has a breaking point." Then came the formal notification. The gate was being installed in 30 days. The accompanying regulations revealed their strategy: 2 standard access cards per household. But a handwritten note specified, properties classified as non-standard agricultural must adhere to additional security measures. 22-21. Later, a text from Eleanor. "Just an FYI, we're only issuing 1 access card for each non-standard residence. New policy." It was so blatantly punitive it almost made me laugh. I simply replied, "Understood. I'll be at the distribution event." Her text was now evidence of targeted discrimination. I then did the ultimate move of false cooperation. I publicly expressed support for the gate and wrote a check for $750 to the security fund. The silence in the room was delicious. Eleanor's smug satisfaction was almost intoxicating. She thought she was winning, never realizing she was walking straight into the one-way door I had built for her. One last detail. Sarah confirmed that in their haste, they skipped every single permit and inspection required for a structure of that size on a historic road. Even better, using a discreet shell company, I quietly bought the outstanding debt for the gate installation from the contractor. The HOA now owed me money for the structure they were building on my land. The gate went up, a towering, decorative iron thing with keycard readers and cameras, a genuine symbol of their authority. The harassment escalated immediately. My single access card only worked between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. One afternoon, I tried to drive my old tractor through, well within the permitted window. The reader flashed red. Eleanor materialized instantly. "I'm afraid agricultural equipment requires special authorization, Mr. Vance," she drawled, dripping with condescension. "The process takes 3 business days." I started recording the conversation on my phone. She immediately snapped. "Recording is not permitted on community property. That's an HOA violation." That exchange, captured perfectly, sealed the deal. Deliveries were turned away. I was forced to use the intercom and explain my presence every time I came home from the grocery store. It was psychological warfare. Then came the final move. A certified letter arrived, signed by Eleanor and Greg from Atlas, offering to purchase my ranch for a figure roughly 40% below market value. It cited community development needs and concluded with a thinly veiled threat: failure to work cooperatively may result in increased access restrictions and potential legal actions regarding code compliance issues. They had given me everything I needed: undeniable proof of coercion, collusion, and discriminatory practices, directly linking the access restriction to their attempt to force a sale. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening. I walked in, not alone, but with Sarah at my side. Her presence alone wiped the smug look off Eleanor's face. "Ethan, we understand you're experiencing some adjustment difficulties," Eleanor began, trying the condescending tone. "The solution is simple. Comply with the access protocols established for properties like yours, or perhaps consider that maintaining an agricultural property in a developing area no longer makes sense. The purchase offer remains open." That was my cue. I nodded to Sarah. She opened her briefcase, removed a document, and slid it across the table. "Before we discuss that offer," I said, my voice steady, "we need to clarify a few legal matters." I tapped the original property deed with the easement provisions highlighted. "According to county records, the road you've restricted is actually located on my property with specific easement rights that cannot be modified without my consent." Eleanor sputtered. "This is some obscure, historical paperwork." Our legal team cleared the plat map. I slid the second document across, the recently certified land survey confirming the original boundary markers, registered just last month. The access road falls entirely within my property line, with a legal easement allowing community use, subject to the property owner's approval of any modifications. That would be me. Robert Peterson finally spoke up, lending weight to my words. "He's right, Eleanor. The road was always an easement through the ranch. We never actually owned it." Eleanor's face drained of color. "This is a manipulation." Sarah calmly placed the third item on the table: a formal legal complaint against the HOA and Eleanor personally, alleging discriminatory practices, improper access restriction, and coercive business practices. This complaint, which includes recordings, witness statements, and the HOA's own minutes indicating a coordinated effort to force a sale, has not been filed yet. Just then, Greg from Atlas Development walked in, summoned by Eleanor, clearly expecting a minor hiccup. He froze seeing the documents and Sarah. I stood up, gathering my papers. "I'm not interested in arrangements or compromises that involve surrendering my property." I placed the final document down: a formal cease and desist order regarding the electronic gate operation. The gate was installed without proper permits, on my property, without my consent, violating multiple county ordinances. I have filed complaints with the relevant authorities, who will be conducting inspections tomorrow morning. Eleanor was trembling with rage. "You can't do this. The community requires security. You'll be violating the rights of every resident." "I have no intention of restricting legitimate resident access," I replied, meeting her gaze. "Unlike you, I don't use access control as a weapon. But the current discriminatory system will be shut down, and any future access solutions will require my approval as the legal property owner." I paused at the door. "I suggest you prepare an explanation for the community about why their expensive new gate system is being deactivated. You might want to start with the truth, though I understand that would be a significant departure from your usual approach." The next morning, precisely at 8 a.m., I was at the gate, accompanied by Sarah, the county building inspector, and a deputy sheriff to enforce the stop work order. The attendant watched in confusion as official notices were posted and the power to the electronic system was disconnected. Within the hour, Leo's truck arrived, and we bolted new, simple signs to the posts. Private road with public easement. Sycamore Ranch maintains access. Eleanor's black SUV screeched to a halt moments later. The look of shattered disbelief on her face, seeing the gate standing open and the new signs in place, was the sweetest moment of satisfaction I've had since Clara left. The trap had closed, but the real show was that evening. At the hastily called community meeting, Eleanor tried to control the narrative, calling my actions hostile and anti-community. I stood up, addressing the crowd. This was never about a gate. It's about a systematic attempt to force me out of my home to make way for a commercial development that would forever change this community. I used a portable projector to lay out the evidence chronologically. The Atlas development blueprints showing the main retail access cutting through my ranch, the recorded conversations, and the discriminatory HOA rules designed to break me. I finished by explaining the actual legal situation, that I had the power to lock them all out, but I wouldn't. Instead, I offered a solution. I would transfer operational control of the road to a community trust under 3 binding conditions. Immediate elimination of all discriminatory access policies. Establishment of transparent governance for all HOA decisions. Permanent protection of Sycamore Ranch from any future development attempts. The residents, realizing how close they came to having their peaceful neighborhood turned into a retail parking lot, erupted. A formal vote of no confidence removed Eleanor as HOA president on the spot. Greg from Atlas left in furious silence. In the months that followed, the transformation was remarkable. Under Robert's interim leadership, the HOA was completely restructured. The hideous gate was removed. Eleanor sold her house and moved away. As for Sycamore Ranch, I started using the property for community good. The large barn that had been silent since Clara's passing became the venue for monthly neighborhood gatherings. The unsightly sunflowers and vegetable patches became part of a community garden project, neighbors sharing the harvest. Now, when I drive down Blackwood Lane, I don't see a victory over an enemy. I see the entrance to a stronger community. The gate that was meant to lock me out instead opened the door to the kind of life Clara and I always dreamed of, one connected to the land and to the good people around us. Sometimes, the traps others set for us become the very means of our liberation. And what begins as a personal battle can transform into something that benefits everyone. So, here's my question for you. Do you think I was right to play the long game? Was it fair to let them build the gate knowing I was going to shut it down? Or should I have filed the injunction immediately? And more importantly, what's the biggest HOA or community drama you've ever witnessed? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about standing up to the big guys. Peace.